Hello.
The What's a Mahoozy into the chat channel, and there we go. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. All right, congratulations, Fairy Cures, on being. Did I miss you? A little, but yeah,
Your name
and
will get better though.
my will absolutely. Did you miss me? With every shot I made.
But my aim's getting better.
There we go. That way you're able to hear the sounds. I need to add so many things I have to do on my to-do list. that I don't really have the time to do until I'm on break. Not next week, but the week after. I gotta add more sounds. I got to do things. Oh, yeah. I need to change my shirts. Hang on a second. I need to get my...
Go suck a lemon.
Oh, your D20's out.
Get my D20s out. Exactly. There we go. Look at this. Now we're D&D aligned. You go suck a lemon for your cures. All right, let me get the game started. Oh, it's my dad. Oh no, they're gonna call me in 5 minutes.
Oh no!
Oh no! I don't know if they know I do this. So, well,
Calm your rice paddy.
they're gonna call. Well, okay. Because I don't want to just sort of say, "Hey, I can't talk to you right now. I'm in the middle of streaming to random people on the internet." That's not a good work-life balance. The whole point of this thing is being able to just sort of be like, right, I'm gonna hit the the eject button if my real livelihood is ever threatened.
Oh no!
Oh no! Honestly, that is how it's been. If there's ever been a threat of someone leaking my personal information while streaming or something like that, I think I mentioned it on like Resident Evil 4, where I am absolutely ready to just delete everything. Like the Twitch gone, the Twitter gone, on Fur Affinity FA. Like I would be ready to just have everything swapped to private, and just leave the mark of like, you know, I had my time on the internet, but then someone decided to dig in or something like that, or something along those lines, and who knows,
yeah.
wouldn't touch this side of the internet for like a good half a decade or something like that, until I finally wanted to do oh hey, you may be wondering why I went. It's because I felt like my livelihood was threatened, and we need to have a discussion about the internet and our whole like post-1990s effect of, rather than being able to be on there and lie and trust that no one is being serious, to the current age of, I will tell you everything about me to help validate my opinions on the internet. It's crazy that way.
Totally.
Alrighty then. I have an important question to ask for you, Kode.
Oh no!
So-
Important questions.
Important questions indeed. I went on a bit of a shopping spree when you were offline. Don't worry, I didn't progress any storylines. I just went on a bit of a shopping spree. Would you like to... Sorry, say that again. The Discord, like, cut you out.
You didn't, did you?
I went on a shopping trip. Now, unrelated...
You used the exploit, didn't you?
Now, unrelated to this conversation, I shared to Kode a TikTok where it demonstrated a particular exploit that could be done in Baldur's Gate 3 if you ever wanted to have heavily discounted items. You see, what you would do is you would get yourself a backpack, and you would sell the backpack. You get like 3 gold for it or something like that. But you don't end the trade there once you sell it. You go into the bartering system, and then you like ask the shopkeeper, hey, I want to look inside that bag I just showed you. And then you just start cramming everything in the shop's works into that backpack. Everything that you could ever want. And that's my dad. You're gonna have to entertain chat for a little bit, Kode, and you explain the TikTok.
So after you shove everything into the bag, you have to drop it into the bar. Sorry, I'm eating food, so that's why my mouth sounds so cold. Oh, dick! But no, in all honesty, so this exploit, I am surprised has not been patched out. As Grant says, you essentially trade a bag, go to barter, put the bag back into the tray, before you trade the bag, pop everything from the bag, or pop everything from the trader into the bag, and then put the bag back into the barter. The bag will only sell for whatever the bag is worth. And then you've got all of the shit from the trader. I was like, I am waiting for Grant to try this because I know he's going to enjoy any exploit he can. Just like back when they did knocking out the owner to steal all their crap. Which they removed that, actually, funny enough. they removed that and only, well, not removed it, but they only allowed for half of the stuff to be stolen if you knocked somebody out, which really got Grant annoyed. On a different topic, though, who here watched the Game Awards today? Hey, Savage, how you doing? So who here watched the Game Awards? You did? Awesome. So we had a brief viewing of it in my Discord, for those of you who want to know. Grant was there. I can't hear a thing while on a call. Ooh. We can talk about evil things behind Grant's back. Ooh. But no, we won't do that. We're not that mean. But I saw it. You saw it. Okay. Awesome. So I only watched a little bit for the Warframe. It seems a lot of people really watch it for the Warframe expansion. It was absolutely a really good showing. Grant and I are going to get into some real detail about this a little later on, probably. But the few ones that I wanted to point out was Sega. Who saw the Sega drop? For those who don't know, Sega just announced that they will be bringing out games for Golden Axe, Shinobi, Crazy Taxi, and the most underrated gem on the Dreamcast and original Xbox. Sorry, let me just pull up the full list of Sega games here. Announced at Game Awards. Streets of Rage was another one, which got announced. As well as one of the most iconic games ever to come out, Jet Set Radio. Will be getting either a remake or a sequel. Seriously. I fucking lost it when I saw this news. I fucking lost my nut. Seriously, I nutted so hard. Everyone who was watching with me was like, okay, we heard the creaming of the pants from all the way over there. But I lost it because all those games, and I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of old comments here, so I'm watching you, Furry Qers. And you, Onyx. I'm watching you. All those games I just mentioned, I've played all of them, either on the original OG Xbox, the Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis as it was also called. I fucking love them all. Onyx, shut up. I played all of them. In fact, I might actually even go and play them again later on, because I have the Sega Mega Collection. So it has Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3, as well as the Shinobi games. So I would seriously consider playing those for you all again at some point. Because I love those titles. As well as Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage getting new games. Fucking chef's kiss. I mean, we already got, like, Streets of Rage 4, which came out not so long ago, too. But to see a new 3D era for it, and the Golden Axe trailer that they showed off was just so good.
Oh, are you talking about, what's-a-mahoozies? The Game Awards. Hey!
So we were just talking about the Sega trailer that showed off.
That...
Are we able to pull that up and show everyone? I think...
Yeah, I reckon we... Like, I don't normally do, like, the review thingy-majiggies very often. Let me see if I can find... Let me see if I can find just the Sega. Yeah.
because that Sega trailer alone was worth every penny.
Absolutely.
There were some great presentations though throughout. Oh, from also Windblown from the creators of Dead Cell looks really good.
All right, I think
I found the Sega trailer.
I think I found it as well. Hang on a second. I am going to... Sorry, I'm just going to change some sources. So we're going to go... PC cache, the main desktop, turn off the thingy-majiggy. Alrighty, so... Because I was with Kode in the Discord call for this one as well. And this was the Sega trailer. If anyone's watching this in the VOD, you're not going to hear an absolute thing, unfortunately. But, you know, I think that's for the better.
Tommy, leave it, get out of that subway bag.
Yeah. So, like, when we watched this, we had our theories of, like, oh, this is going to be, like, about cloud gaming was my thought.
Yeah, that's what we thought, too, because, like, the game goes out, like, did you save?
Yeah. And, you know, there's obviously some Sega references, like the helmet, gloves, Crazy Taxi, the sonic noise. And every trailer up to this point has just been a case of, oh, either a, like, one game being presented, or here's a platform, like Samsung Gaming or the Meta.
Yeah, but this made me go and absolutely go, oh, Daddy, yes!
I totally forgot they made the Sega sound. This was cool.
Look at that Jet Set radio footage.
Oh. Like... Just any one of those first twos would have been a trailer on their own. And then we're just getting like 5.
Shinobi, that's Golden Axe.
Yep, there's Crazy Taxi. Nice.
All of this is just so good.
And they're just and Sega's just like, we're working on this.
More. Which means like, there is a litany of games within Sega's library that can be brought out.
I forgot about that dude. He just
wait, what happened?
So at the end, hang on a second. Let me see if I can go let me see if I can go back. So
and there goes Kode. Yep.
You just got like it's just Sega, which let's be real, I think everyone over the age of 30, after watching this advertisement, did the exact same thing.
Shut up.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? Did you not? Was like absolutely fucking amazed by Sega?
I was, but shut up about the over 30 thing. There was so many good announcements though. Harmonium looked really nice. The one about the deaf girl.
Oh, yep. That was one of the earlier ones.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was one of the earlier ones.
Let me go to Game Awards and see.
Windblown, which looks really good from the creators of Dead Cells. The trailer for that, though, was bloody.
What was interesting was, like, we got a Marvels, which was done by
Blade.
Arcane, which Arcane had a bit of a problem, like, because they went through... Deathloop, where some people were like, hey, this is kind of cool, but we were kind of wanting a little more like alternative of the Dishonored, like varying levels of interaction, and then also the DLC we got for Prey. And then we recently went through Redfall, which technically wasn't the same Arcane peeps, but you know, they obviously don't want you remembering they did Redfall, which is absolutely different. So getting this,
hopefully this will redeem them a little bit.
Oh, a terrible thought just came into my head.
What?
What if this is just Redfall, like, mechanically?
Oh, no.
Because, like, what's Redfall? Oh, it's just Arcane doing vampire hunters and such with special abilities, but you could do it cooperatively. Although, granted, the cooperative aspect of Redfall does not happen very well once you're done, because any co-op missions you did that you weren't the host for don't get applied to your thingamadiggy. And so, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think we would love the idea of, like, Dishonored style Blade. I'm not a Marvel like aficionado. My experience with Marvel is TikToks and the cinematic universe. Does Blade have any powers besides enhanced strength, speed, and the immunity to light.
That's a hard one. I was never too far into the Blade series. It is mostly his strength and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
He does have some vampiric sort of abilities, such as drinking blood, the regenerative factor,
Yeah.
enhanced sight, smell.
So the things I'm hearing, like with Blade, is that it's our supernatural entry into Marvel, utilizing basically the same sort of thing as, like, say, Batman,
Yeah.
fucking Daredevil, but for the supernatural.
Yeah, exactly. Blade essentially gets none of the major powers, but given that, he also gets none of the major weaknesses that vampires have.
Yeah. So
He has all their advanced strengths and senses, but he can't do anything that most, like, higher level vampires could do.
yeah. So I think me putting on, like, my developer, like, thinking cap app, I don't think we're gonna get Dishonored stuff, like him being able to, like, sort of quote unquote blink from, like, one location to the next. I don't think we'll get something like that. I think we'll get something a little more akin to Dying Light, where that one had a lot more parkour aspects to it. There might be more arcane, you know.
And let's not forget as well, this is also going to be in third person, not first person.
Oh, this one's a third person?
That's what they said. It was going to be in third person.
Okay. All right. That will be interesting then. So yeah, no, I'm going to stick to, like, best case scenario, it's going to be more like a Dying Light sort of scenario where it's a lot of it is going to be based on how well is the city, because I'm pretty sure this is in Paris, isn't it?
By the looks of it, it was Paris.
Yeah, because I think that's what the guy mentioned, like the VA for Blade.
Yeah, it's going to be based in Paris.
Yeah.
Hello, Engrel. How you doing?
Did you see it?
Hi there, Angrel. Sorry, I don't want to, like, stick in front of the screen because, like, we could.
Also, one of the other big ones that I was really excited for, Monster Hunter Wild.
Oh, that was, like, the very last trailer as well, wasn't it?
Oh my god, a new Monster Hunter. So I may go through the Monster Hunter games from start to finish. Completely from the start of Worlds to the end of Rise. And I would love if you would join me in that, Grant, for some of that.
I don't know if you think I don't know how much time you think I have. All right.
But I would love everyone to join in, kind of like what we did before, because we had a great time when we did that before.
Collaborative shit is always the funnest, quite frankly. So,
Go suck a lemon.
there were some amazing titles announced.
yeah.
Visions of Mana, a new Mana game. We got to see some more of the new Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is the new Tenkaichi game.
Yeah.
Wukong.
I'm excited
Oak
for.
Father preserve you.
Wukong, I'm really excited for. Ragnarok getting some free DLC in Valhalla. The casting of
have me.
Frank Stone, which is supposed to be set in the Dead by Daylight universe.
Yes. Also, where are you?
I am outside the camp for some reason, and why is my hubby not with me?
Okay, so
Why is hubby not with me?
alrighty, so I don't know how much you explained to them after I had to, like, veer off and talk to my dad after the TikTok explanation.
Oh yeah, I did explain the process of the little thing you were talking about.
Yeah. All right. So from what I saw, no one seems upset by that. And so this is the post-shopping save.
So this is after you've gone shopping.
This is after I've gone shopping. Don't worry. I've got some funds. Now, let me just have a quick look and see what might be good. So, also, I had to...
Oh yeah, the Kojima game.
Oh, yes! Code, you're forgetting the
I'm
Kojima
not
game.
sure what I thought about that.
I'm of the opinion that it is... I think it's too early to tell, like, for, like, the game OD. Much like how Death Stranding was, like, the same sort of thing for us. Like, because everything we've seen up to that point have just been like a mixture of announcements and just, you know, visual spectacle for us to be interested. There wasn't any like guaranteed gameplay, I don't think, with any of the games. Oh, like, well, let's be real though. OD, probably, if it's going to be like in the horror/thriller sort of area, like how Silent Hill, for instance, or like PT, like that one had some horror, because that's Hideo Kojima, isn't it? PT? Yeah. Hideo Kojima, that was like one of the last projects that they wanted to work on before Konami was just being a dick to them. And they've got Jordan Peele, probably one of the better producers/directors for the horror/thriller genre for the modern day. Rather than just being like, oh, let's do another slasher film. It's one that I feel like is right up Kojima's alley about, you know, not short-term horrors of, oh, jump scare or gore. It's like long-term horrors, like in Get Out, where it was just a case of like, oh yeah, like people just get body snatched, and the ramifications for which is just because of, you know, personal
really
interest.
Psychological thriller.
Exactly. Same with Us and Nope. I still need to watch Nope. All right. Let's have a look.
It also seems that he's continuing his trend of, while he works on it, he's also working with big names who know how to produce these sorts of things. Like with Death Stranding, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Who knows how to do sci-fi and fantasy and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna hold on to that ring just in case. Can see in the dark up to 12 thingy-madoogs. Adds an additional 1d4 and ring of jumping. I can already do a jump, but it would be funny to just have that as a free action if I could.
Oh, and to answer your question, Derek, I've got both Monster Hunter games on PC.
Nice. Spectre's eyes and the wounding thing. Alrighty. Would you like an amulet of restoration? It gives,
what does it do?
It gives you the level 1 evocation spell Healing Word and the level 3 evocation spell Mass Healing Word. I reckon that's worthwhile. Like giving it to, like, what has Shadowheart got right now? When downed, automatically stabilizes at the start of turn, maximizes the number of hit points restored. I reckon, like, the maximum of hit points restored, that has been a bit of a... It's still been a dice roll with her, right? Like, if she's done Healing Word, it doesn't do, like, the guaranteed massiveness, has it?
Honestly,
Progress.
when it comes to both Halcyon and Shadowheart, Halcyon can do just as much healing as Shadowheart can.
Let's... Hang on, what's, Halcyon... Oh, Halcyon's got, like, fucking nothing. Hang on a second. Let me go back into my...
Can't give up now.
Dink. Open. Alright.
Furicures 1221 paid me to
Max is
say
just
I
on
have
herself.
an announcement to make.
Thank you, Angro.
I need everyone's attention.
Apparently, Furry Cures is asking for our attention. All right, let me get closer. Ow! God damn it!
Haha!
This is unfair. Look at me, dead, limp. I'm as limp as a paper straw in the sea.
That timing was perfect.
It's just like, let me zoom in. Boom. All right. Let me see. What can I give Halcyon? I'm gonna give Halcyon Scroll of Blight. You know what? Halcyon, yours. Color Spray, Halcyon's. Dark Vision, Halcyon. Flight, I'm gonna give that to you because you do all that. Feather Falling, you. Knock, I'm gonna give that to Halcyon. Is Halcyon gonna be using any cool weapons?
Not sure at the moment. Given that he can heal and that he's also got a little more
Night
proficiency
Sky
in
Gem
different
paid
armor.
me to say I have 64,000 points. Oh whoa.
I barely heard you over
Halcyon,
the TTS.
sorry. I'm just having a look. So Halcyon, so he's got simple weapons as well as martial weapons.
Oh, martial weapons as well? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are they
Um,
an Eldritch Knight or a Warlock?
They are a druid.
Okay. Oh, just 100% a Druid. Okay. All right. I'm gonna give
He's
him...
also got proficiencies in medium and light armor.
Alrighty then. Let me have a look at some of the medium armors I've grabbed.
Why'd you just give him a dagger?
It was a +2. Oh, does he have anything ranged?
Not yet.
All right. Here's a light crossbow.
Okay.
So wait, that never mind.
You want it?
Nah, I'm good. Would he benefit from a halberd that negs his intelligence and his wisdom?
Probably not, because his main is wisdom and intelligence.
All right, I'll give that to Lae'zel then. Okay.
Oh, well, no, his intelligence is 8. But I don't want him any dumber, because his wisdom is 19.
All right. An intransient warhammer. You knock nearby foes prone after killing a hostile target or landing a critical hit. It's a warhammer.
I've given him the nature's snare, because it does, ensnare on targets.
Okay.
Given his, druidic roots and stuff like that.
Fair enough, fair enough. Ooh, what about the Susur dagger? Silences targets on hits.
No, because I don't think it'd be a good one for him to have.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I'm not sure if it affects his actual magic as well.
Radio. Of the absolute. He's not doing barbaric nonsense.
Night Sky has 64,000 points. Night Sky, put him in the maid dress.
Do not put me in the maid dress. Do not put me in the maid
Put
dress.
him in the maid dress.
Do not listen to Kode.
I don't care what gender you are. Put on the maid outfit.
Alright. Rare bark
Oh, I
skin.
don't care
God
what
damn it,
gender you
Savage!
are. Put on the maid outfit.
Thank you for the 10,000 channel points. What about bark skin armor? You are invested with the power of the meadows and woods of the land and have the effect of bark skin, increasing your armor class to 16. You have advantage on Constitution saving throw checks.
That could be useful for him, yeah.
All right.
Because I just gave him Oak Father's Embrace.
Let's see. Because it's light and medium armor, correct?
Yeah, light and medium armor. Because I mean, even that Oak Father's one put him at 15, so that bark skin one put him up one higher.
Yep. So let's see, what's this one?
So what have I got in my inventory? Okay, so I was not used as a scapegoat for your burglaring means.
No, I could do it. There was no burglaring. It was just really good couponing.
Really good couponing.
Yeah, exactly. It was just really good couponing.
I mean, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just giggling at how,
Yeah. All right. Take one less from slashing. While obscured, the wearer has... All right, these are all heavy armors. You gain bull's strength, increases your strength score by 2 to a maximum of 20. This was basically like the strength equivalent of my current... Because I'm keeping Cat's Grace for the dexterity, and it gives me, like, bonus and such, because I can use my dexterity in a lot of my things.
So Halson, I don't think really utilizes... He does have a little bit of strength, but his main is dex and wisdom.
Ooh, the Yuan-Ti scale armor. It's armor class 15, but it adds your full dexterity modifier to your armor class. Additionally, the armor does not impose disadvantage on stealth ability checks, and you get a +1 to initiative rolls.
Well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I'll give that to Allison. You let them have a try.
Oh wow, that gets him up to 19.
Nice. Could they use a shield?
They could, depends on what we've got.
A wood woad shield gives them +2, and it gives them woads ensnaring strike, which is D4. Your attacks summon thorny vines that possibly ensnare your target.
Sounds kind of like a skill that he could use.
Yeah. All right. Hang on a sec. I gotta open it up again. Yonk.
A mace or a club would also be probably more up his alley as a druid too.
Choo!
Bless
Choo!
you. Bless you.
Thank you. Alrighty, let me find
Grant
the...
sneezes like a girl.
No, I don't. I'm gonna hit you like one, or no, what's... I'm gonna hit you like a man. That came out wrong.
How about a pound you like? How about a pound you like a man? Wait, that didn't come out right.
Yeah, alright, I'll give this to Halson. Your weapons deal an additional 2...
we can carry
acid?
the staff as well for the time being.
So, can he carry both a staff and a shield, or...
Yeah, he can.
Okay, alright. And then we've got... Shield of Devotion. You gain 1 level 1 spell slot, and it's a very rare shield. It gives you Shield Bash. When a foe hits you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to knock it prone unless they succeed a dexterity saving throw.
I think the Woodwode one is a better one for him at the moment.
Alright, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Alrighty, I will leave a lot of this... Actually, hang on. Defender's Flail. Reduces incoming bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage by 1. It's weapon enhanced, so it has +1, so it deals It deals 1d8 plus 2, and its armor class increases by 1. In the main hand, it gives you tenacity. When you miss an attack, you deal 1 bludgeoning damage anyway. It's a martial weapon or flail. So, yoink. Howson.
Send it over.
Yep.
Oh no, he's not proficient with flails.
Darn it. Okay.
So I'll send that back over to you.
Alright. Ooh, this one would be...
I'll send these other items back over to you too that we're not using.
Alright, cool. Fair enough. Alright, I am going to equip that instead, because that one's a better thingy. Githyanki, shit. So yeah, you can't use flails. Whilst the wielder is not wielding armor, they gain no, that's not useful for him. Charge bound. The hammer's magical powers only function if it's bound to an eldritch knight or as a warlock's pack weapon. Doesn't work for Howson. Cruel sting.
We'll find some other items as we go along. So.
Yeah, and hang on a sec. I'm just gonna carry a backpack with me.
To steal shit.
It's not stealing. It's just great couponing.
Stealing shit.
No, it's not stealing shit. Don't be ridiculous. All right.
He's stealing shit. God, he's stealing. Oh, he's snitching.
No, you snitching. Snitches end with stitches down in ditches.
Yeah, I'd like to see you give me stitches, you bitches. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh crap, he's got a gun!
Took you long enough. Alright. Send that to camp. Does he have any... Oh, the Oak Father's Embrace. Undead creatures that hit the wearer receive 1d6 radiant damage. Beasts that hit the wearer deal an additional... Oh, yeah, no. We're not gonna use that.
You may need to re-invite me. My net went out for a second there.
Ah! Alright, give me a sec. Send to camp. Send to camp. Send to camp.
I'm now full as a gug.
Multiplayer, yep, hang on. Code. The Woodwode one was nice if you remember right. Thanks, Angle. I'm glad I'm glad my shopping made some very great decision making.
Yeah, his thievery made some great
shopping.
That's what it said, thievery.
Alright, ooh, genital striding. Wait.
Genital?
No,
what?
Not genital, shut up. Genial.
You all heard that, Chad.
No.
He said genital.
No.
He said genitals.
You have no proof of this. I said
Chat, can we clip that? Chat,
genial. Genial striding. The wearer's movement speed is unimpeded by difficult terrain. I think that's pretty good for Halson to... Does he have any good boots?
Let me just have a look. He do be having some good boots made for walking. Boots of striding. When you cast a spell that requires concentration, you gain momentum for
that's...
1 turn. While concentrating, you can't be prone. Yeah, and some of his do have concentration, I think.
Alrighty then.
Like hold person.
Nice. I now get a +3 to intelligence checks. I am no longer an idiot.
Good old 10-finger discount, eh, Grant?
No, it's not a 10-finger discount. It's just really great couponing. Alrighty, I reckon I am good to go. I'm gonna drink this potion just in case we run into any beasts. I know exactly who we are going to need to... I know exactly where I want to go next. Because of Raphael's old enemy. Raphael told us...
we also need to find the child as well.
Seek Thaniel's shadow. Flowers still grow in the shadow-cursed lands. Among the blooms, we might locate Thaniel's missing half. The key to his cure. Okay.
So it looks like actually Thaniel's other half is actually pretty close.
Like from the Grand Mausoleum or from the Last Light?
From the Last Light. Oh, you went to the Grand Mausoleum.
Yeah, because I wanted to check out the what's-a-mahoozies.
All right, well, we'll go to the Grand Mausoleum then first.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we'll check out
Waste a step.
a flower. I want to see what this enemy is, because I imagine, much like in the vampire and What We Do in the Shadow, the quote-unquote the beast is just an X.
More than likely.
So yeah. Wait, actually, hang on a second.
We may want to make a save here too when we do this.
Yeah, no, fair.
Actually, where'd you go?
I went back to camp because I realized I don't want Shadowheart. I want my mom. I want Carla.
Did you just say you want your mommy?
It's about time Halston actually stepped up and joined us properly. If you're
also,
sure. Fine.
Savage Dragon clipped you saying genitals.
Thank you for the clip. Thank you for the clip, though, Savage. I appreciate it. I like getting clips to my channel. It helps, you know, like tell people like what in the world is the thingamadiggy. Alrighty. Sort of combat. Alright, is there
genitals?
Oh no, she would benefit from the what's-a-mahoozies thingamadiggy, the bull's clothing thing. Because it's not light armor or heavy armor, it's just cloth. So she still does her berserker thing. Berserker type. Alrighty, where are you?
Oh, don't want a back seat for the later part, but this section you probably want Shadowheart.
Oh. Okay. You see, this would be useful if we had, like, the limitless party mod thing. Alright,
yeah, but the mods started acting up, though, don't forget.
It acted up only, like, just after a major update, so... Alright, fine. Hang on. Fine. Alright, ding.
Wish to live in more interesting times.
Did she have a... Alright, Karlak?
Soldier.
I need you to stay behind
Sounds
camp.
boring.
You heard me. Alrighty, Shadowheart.
Lady of Sorrows, guide us. Did you all right?
Join me. Also, was she using...
Faith protects me.
Okay, what's her thing? Once per short rest, if you're below 50 and take damage, you gain 8 temporary... Oh, that's a terrible...
Got to keep moving.
Let me give you the devotion thing that I got you. It's to be expected until we get official mod support. Yeah, fair enough. Alrighty.
Kane, are we robbing a bank?
No, we're adventuring a bank. Try to keep up. Alright, I reckon this would be useful for Shadowheart. The additional... Still does the +2, gives an additional thing, and if anyone tries to hit him with a melee attack, they have the reaction to be able to knock him prone, which I think would be useful anytime they use concentration shit, so...
Looking ahead.
Not proficient with martial or heavy weapons. Hang on a second. Once again, I'm reviewing things. Where's the ranged nonsense that she can use? Hunting bow. Heavy crossbow. She's not proficient with the heavy crossbow. You have advantage against monstrosity types. Alright, there we go.
I've got a long road ahead.
Ding, donk. Alright. Now we're good for save, new save, save.
Okay, we ready?
Alrighty, we're going into the cave.
Sigils. Attempts to restrain Lady Shar.
Oh, okay, that's... Alright, so something to do with Lady Shar, then. Interesting. Alright. An iron fence? Doesn't take anything to...
Me, Cyril, Minthara, whoever you are, leave. I shall carry out General Form's will alone.
Herald of Balthazar. Huh?
Not wanted, not needed. Leave.
Okay.
I'm gonna close this gate behind us.
What's on the plaque?
Here lies Melodia Thorn, beloved wife and mother. A Armiel Telere Manon here.
Huh.
Let me read that. Was there any sort of check on that you had to do?
No, there wasn't any other check.
Here lies Melodia
No.
Thorn,
A
beloved
journal.
Key.
wife and mother.
Well, I found...
That's the symbol of Merkel.
Oh, you did a check on something, it sounds like.
Yeah, religious check just then.
So this is the diary of, what's-a-mahoozy, Kethric Thorm? Oh, no, not, yeah, Kenrith Thorm, or whatever his name is. How can she be gone? Where did she go? The Moon Maiden cannot be so unfeeling, so cruel. Not towards her most devoted servant, not after Melodia. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I won't survive it, that much I know. Forgetting is the only possibility, the embrace of oblivion, the reprieve of nothingness. It would not be possible for a man to survive knowing what he knows, knowing what can be lost. Shar understands that. Hers is the only mercy I can comprehend. My mind is full of holes, yet not enough. Emptiness, time, nothingness. They still remember. There's no mercy in the beating heart. There's no mercy in life at all. Okay, so this mother slash wife, like, was this could have been Kethric's wife, I want to say?
Maybe. I've got one here. General Thorm's orders were clear. In order to find what lies beyond the mausoleum, one must walk in his own footsteps, deed by deed, for splendor to tragedy to infamy. That might be a hint to a puzzle.
All right.
From splendor to tragedy to infamy.
That was a diary, or that was just a note?
A note.
All right. I've got a hand-drawn map showing the Gauntlet of Shar. Labyrinth tangle of chambers, passageways across multiple levels. A vast statue of Shar dominating the central hall. Here and there are a side written in jagged spidery hands. Balthazar's exploratory notes. Intact wings, proving grounds, question mark. Ruined wings, something present there, strange sounds report. Rats. Why so many damnable rats? Okay.
Looks like there's a temple under this place. And something
Go
deadly
suck a
sealed
lemon.
inside it.
Okay. So my character was just like, there's a temple under here.
Okay, this area's got green on it.
Is that...
Oh, there's a
Bones
diary of
everywhere.
Kedrick Thorm.
Someone's been engaging in dark rituals here.
There's another diary
Okay,
if you want to have a
that's
look
it.
at it.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
that's
spit in
volume
your
2.
mouth.
All right, hang on a second.
You're better at reading those sort of things than I am.
Thank you.
There's
I
also
do
a
I do my
backpack.
best. Forgetting evades me in this infinite darkness. Balthazar is my own source of the barest comfort. The thought that, perhaps, she might be brought back to me. If oblivion can fail, what defense have we against death? None except its mastery. Balthazar's words have never felt more
Totem
processing.
dedicated to Merkel. Kethric Thorm ransacked the graves of his ancestors to honor his new god.
By the way, I just found some stuff in that backpack.
Oh, what did you find?
So I found a scroll. Wait, where did all that go? That must have been put as supplies. An imp wing, and some other stuff. But it looks like they're not here, so I'm guessing they went to camp supplies.
Possibly. Hi there, Tatsu. Welcome to the stream. It's D&D Night. I'm with Kode the Yoshi. They are the smarter of the two of us, as they are playing this dude right here, this dragonborn sorcerer.
I'm sorry, did you say smarter?
Yes, because if I don't wear the cool tiara, then my intelligence is like 7, and you're smarter than me.
Yeah, okay, sure. Did you say smarter? How much of that do you regret saying?
Not too much. Like, we're like, you know, once we get out of D&D and we have to like race puzzles or something like that, who knows? Maybe that will change. But anywhoosies, I am the dwarf monk. Now you might have two questions: why a dwarf and why a monk? Number one, monks are the best fantasy race. Argumentatively, I will not hear.
Dwarves are the best fantasy race, argumentatively.
Thank you. Dwarves are the best fantasy race, argumentatively, because they are given the fantasy elements similar to elves, but are given the human ingenuity that we have in real life, which means that they have the best of the real life and of the fantasy realm. You can't do any better. Humans are idiots. Elves are racist. Dwarves are just, you know, fucking awesome.
Unless you can be Batman, then be Batman.
Then be Batman if you want to, but there isn't a Batman in D&D because that's copyright infringement, and there ain't going to be any kind of IP crossover of Batman being in D&D. It would be fucking awesome, I can tell you. Could you imagine the interaction that he would have with someone like Vecna or some shit?
Hey, cool, I found a Batman build.
Meanwhile, Monk was just because I rolled a d12 and it landed on Monk, and I said, sure, we're going to be playing as Monk. Kode has decided to go with Sorcerer and do some metagaming and be like, yes, with the... with these choices of feats and spells, I get to mitigate the possibility of chance with this dice roll. And I nat one.
Also, fireball, motherfuckers!
When in doubt, exactly. All right. Any more books?
No.
Alright, just some weird bones.
Also, I just realized I am out of sorcery points, so I actually might not be able to cast Fireball at the moment.
What do you mean you're out of... I swear we went for a rest just before.
No, we didn't.
We are full health. What do you mean?
We did a short rest.
Oh. Do you want to go for a full rest just before we... Because we're about to go underneath a temple, from the sounds of it.
Might be an idea.
Alrighty then. Yes, let's end the day. We haven't even properly started. We are like how long? We're less than an hour in, and it's like, all right, let's go to sleep.
Let's go to sleep.
Yep. Alrighty.
Go to sleep, not a peep, or I'll smother you with a pillow. Also, I'm naked. I forgot.
Also, I should have done this. Shout out to Tatsu, because I'm pretty sure Tatsu streams. You keep. Hey, god damn. Oh, well, thankfully the thingy-majiggy helps keep me relatively... Oh, hello, Scratch. Hang on a second. Before I talk to Scratch, drink. You made me waste an animal speaking...
Unable to speak through the small bag he holds in his mouth.
Alright. What you got there? What you got there, you big boy?
Know. Maybe you can tell me. All I know is I thought of you when I saw it.
He saw a salami, and he gave it, and he was like, I thought of you when I saw this salami. So yeah. You are Bear Owl Man. Oh, you're going with the, druid, is it, Yay, we received salami. Alrighty, we're good to go?
I am admiring Owlbear.
There's Owlbear? Oh, there's Owlbear.
You smell
I shall name
very
him
delicious,
Albert.
but I will not bite you. Nice here. The caves smell like rotting meat.
Let's pet the owlbear. I can't wait for the owlbear to be big. How long does it take for owlbears to grow?
Not sure.
It was
already looking pretty big.
Tatsu was making a
There's
joke of we
more
can't
to
have
this
Batman.
place. I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Lady Shah's presence is near.
Owlbear man.
Looks like a trap there.
Nothing. It must
Is that
have
a
been
trap there?
Oh, I don't think any of these traps work.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
Yeah, none of these traps work because they've been disarmed. Look at this.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
Oh, what's in the what's on the plaque?
Susun Elg Oloth.
What the?
Oh, there's a button over here.
Susun Elg Oloth.
Ketherick Thorm has a problem with letting things die.
is trapped. Whoever that elf is, he's got an army of Shah worshippers at his command.
Oh. Disarm the gargoyle. Alright, so long as I do not roll a 1, I should be good. Hell yeah. God, I love being a monk. The dexterity. Alright, what happens
There's
if I
another one on this side.
Next time's the charm.
Alright, one moment. Bam. Nice. I love dexterity being an advantage throw. Alright,
Whoever might not be the time. That's not going to work.
Shah worshippers at his command.
Whoever that elf is, he's got an army of Shah worshippers at his command.
That elf is leading an army of dark justiciars. Who is he?
what are you figuring out? Oh, are you disarming things?
Swift as
Disarming.
my feet can carry me.
Like...
Oh, hang on. Look, there's a button over here. Wait, hold up.
Oh, so that's Moonrise... That's Moonrise Tower. And this is... Oh!
Watch how you go. There's a trap.
Cool, you blinded me. We're blinded in
I
grief.
figured- Grief. Moonrise Tower. General. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. I remembered something.
Next time's the charm.
Susun Elg Oloth.
You're gonna have to click the button again and set off the traps. The splendor, the tragedy, the infamy.
Okay, so... Okay, so
Because it
Splendor
looks like
would be the
grief-
Moonrise. The Tragedy would be the Grief.
Grief. And the infamy would be the other one.
Yeah.
So the splendor, the tragedy, the infamy.
Yeah, I think I got it the right way. Hey! That opened something.
Look at that. I'm smart. I remembered something.
Where did you read that? The Splendor, the something, the Infamy.
It was on a note.
Ah.
Bring us, though.
See, I'm not just another pretty face.
Yee. Alright, Traveler's Gem. Alrighty. So apparently Raphael's like beast or whatever, or adversary is here. Wait, are we in the Underdark again?
Looks like it.
The Gauntlet of Shar. Ooh, so this is like the other note I read, where it was like the wings and...
Gauntlet of Shar.
Ooh.
Before my very eyes. The Dark Lady guided
Where
me
the fuck?
here.
Oh,
She-
you actually
She
went down.
wanted me
No,
to
I didn't go
find
down. I
this
just went
place.
up. I wanted to see what was up here. Alrighty, so... Yeah, so this is the Gauntlet of Shar, and Shadowheart was like, oh, a lady Bona! Shar was meant to have me here! So, alright.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, so, ooh, what's the plaque say?
Shah, singer of eternal night, protector of the lost
Protector.
and forgotten.
Protector of the lost and the forgotten.
Cross from light into darkness. give your life to the shadows.
Alright. So, crossing over from the light to the dark, and we're looking to be part of the shadows.
Offer your pain to Shah's embrace. Hear the night song.
Okay.
The answer lies in darkness.
Shah's warriors must not be caught, must not be tricked. Only loss awaits the unworthy.
A voice. Is that Shah herself who speaks?
Be careful.
On my way.
Oop.
You got knocked on your ass.
Oh! There's like darker paths. Hang on a second. Oop. Nope, never mind.
I'll just run at it again. But
Alright, let me get out of there. Alright.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
Alright, hang on. Disarm this. Click to roll. I'll just... Hey, it was a critical success. Disarm this. There we go. I am doing so well at this. Alright. So there's a lever here. Alright, let's see what the lever does. Okay, so that disarm... You're wasting disarming things?
Embrace those who blunder. The darkness will feed on the weak, taking what they hold dear.
I messed up.
Okay, hang on a second. Wait, what did she just say? Will not embrace those who blunder. The darkness will feed on the weak, taking what they hold dear. Yeah, this is void.
Anything of use.
Avoid that trap.
These boots have seen
Do we
everything.
want to re-enter here and try that again?
No, give me a second, give me a second. I'll figure this out.
Embrace those who blunder. The darkness will feed on the weak, taking what they hold dear.
Oh, something deactivated.
Breathe quiet. Move with care.
Mystic tree.
I'll give it a shot.
What is it? Hang on. Okay, so that turns out the... Oh! Okay, do we have another, hang on a
There
second.
was another switch on the other side, so maybe if I pull this one, it might lower the other one.
Hang on a second. And
What am
turn?
I to do? No time to waste.
Oh, hang on. So... Hang on.
Oh no, that lever there behind you is the one you've got to
Yeah.
pull.
We'll need to get out of turn-based if we...
Need to press onward.
Alright, ungroup, so then that way I can go here. And
Keeping my
then...
head down.
Whatever comes, I'm ready.
Alrighty, and
Taking
then
my
house...
time in the shadows.
And then... There we go.
These
Looks like there's
have
another
seen
one over there
everything.
that went down too.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
Okay.
Right over there.
Oh, right across? Or... Oh, yeah, I see it, I see it, I see it. Alright, give me a second, Ow.
Maybe not go so close to it.
Okay, okay.
No hesitation.
Alright, and then I'll pull the other lever here, which I think might bring that other one down.
Alright, pull it.
Nope, it didn't bring that one down.
But it did bring one of them down. Hang on a second.
No, it brought the one down here. So maybe the other levers are over this side.
All right. So that's the other one off. All right. Pull that lever again.
No, I don't think it's gonna bring him down.
No. I just want to. All right.
Waiting
So if I
with
pull
bated
this-
breath.
Does it pull any others?
There looks to be levers over here.
Pull yours.
No, this way.
All right. Be mindful of. What did you just tell me?
Breathe deep.
Yeah, but I tried to go around the other side. Halson somehow managed to walk through without any...
Yeah, you're not Halson though. Just.
Hey, are you saying I can't be as handsome as Halson?
This place is
No, I'm just saying you're not Halson. Alrighty, so if I pull this lever... Alrighty.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
So that turns off that light.
Yeah, it also lowered the one over here.
Yeah, alright. Hang on a second. So I'm gonna... So you'll need to turn yours shortly. Alright, turn yours off. Alright, turn your lever.
There's also the one over there.
Yep. So yeah.
Oh, it highlighted the other path. So you need to
Eh,
go around that path.
Yep, okay. Hey. Leading us.
Welcome, child. Follow
So because we had the lights off, we were able to see the path that wouldn't have us like bouncing back.
Also, it looks like there's something over here too.
Oop.
Be wary. This place is trapped. Should mind my step.
Oh, the traps are deactivated.
Should be. Jump.
The rain of night comes in 1,000 falling leaves.
That makes no sense.
Anything in the tomb?
Gold and a potion of reading minds.
Nothing but
That's
incenses.
a friendly-looking shadow. If everyone else minds their business, I'll be fine.
Alrighty. Nothing down there. Nothing down
One day
over
I'll
there.
catch a break.
Alright. I reckon we go into the next room. Alright.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of this being a whole Shar thing, darkness and, let's see, seems to be a theme. But it means we can open this.
Wow, I guess they really embrace the darkness in people's hearts. Don't worry, I keep my jokes simple and clean.
Oh my gosh. I can't ever hear the phrase simple and clean normally anymore. Alright,
Out of sight, out of mind.
so we
But
got
that's the way that you're making me feel tonight.
reconstituted marksmans. Alright, so we don't want to go that. Oh. Never mind.
They spot you, did they?
Yeah, I was hiding behind a wall, but the thing. Alright, let's see. What do they do?
You do not belong here.
Your mind upends. Somehow, in the decayed soup of this creature's brain, a tadpole lives. Another presence nurtures it. manipulates it like a puppet.
No,
Huh.
you do not belong. This is the Dark Lady's house. She is no use for old, faithless bones.
Oh, Shadowheart is helpful.
You plunder! You meddle! You upset my plans. Leave.
Ooh. 3 corpses sharing 1 personality. Who or what am I speaking to?
I am their creator. I saved them from life. From death.
How is he breathing when he's dead?
And their
Magic.
flesh. Now they serve me. Leave before. Stupid worm-infested cockhead! You have awoken the shadows. My forces are split. The defenses are thin. Rally on me. A wall of bone and blade against the darkness. Now.
Okay.
Are they against us or with us?
I think they're with us because there's now these Justicar Avengers. That's not good. Alright, so there's an ancient altar down below. There's these braziers.
You might want to pull Shadowheart into the fight too.
What's next, I wonder?
He's down the stairs.
Onward.
Lol, she passed the stealth check. Oh, no, never mind. There we go. Alright.
I wonder if this is
You're
worth
good.
the cost.
Because I reckon... What are you...
Yeah?
What are you casting Scorching Ray on? Are you casting it on this Umbral Terror thing?
No, I was casting on the Justicar Nightweavers.
Alrighty then. Wait, which one's the Nightweaver?
Those 3.
Oh, okay.
Although probably should have done it
Why
on the
can't I
Umbral Terror.
Why can't
Tremor.
I investigate these? Won't let me examine them.
Umbral Tremor, so resistance to slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, acid, thunder immunity, necrotic immunity, fire resistance, cold resistance, psychic immunity, poison immunity, radiant vulnerability.
Sounds.
Oh, and guess who just has radiant on her character?
Shadowheart!
That's right, it's Shard!
To focus.
Meanwhile, Halson has what? What does Moonbeam do?
Hold down a moonbeam of light.
That
Any
enters...
creature that enters the beam starts its turn in the light and can use an action to move the beam.
I would have put it, like, there. Like, where the,
Yeah, I wasn't sure on what it would do, so I was more so playing it by ear.
Fair enough.
Also, no, hang on. We'll... Badger... Error!
Can you be a bear while concentrating?
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
Say hello to my sexual advances.
Hello, bear. Alrighty, so what is... Putrefaction?
Breathing fast. I need healing.
I need healing.
Oh yeah, she got hit with a lot of the void nonsense. Whoa, wait, what?
Why did Lady Shah's dead attack? Am I being tested?
Oh, I think it's the amulet she had on.
Oh.
You might want to have her heal. I gave her mass heal wounds.
Wait, is it mass heal wounds or just mass heal word?
Mass healing word.
Yeah.
Or just healing word should do the job for her. She's also got turn undead, which might work on these Justicars too.
Let's see. Where in the world is the turn undead nonsense?
Top. First 3.
There it is. 25% chance. Nice!
That is why you have turn undead.
That is amazing.
The only thing is, though, it may...
We will need to get rid of the umbrals.
Time for some bloody work.
Nice, so that's the first one gone. Second one. Nice.
How did I get blinded? Something I was stepping in.
Can't slow down.
I don't see any other one of these umbral tears.
Yeah. I think what we need to do is we need to take out the what's-a-mahoozy. Be careful of the moonbeam, by the way. The braziers and any light sources to help us out with what it is we need to look at and do. Nice.
Bastard!
Yeah, that guy there wasn't goaded, unfortunately. Oh, what? What is goading doing if it isn't? Hang on. All right.
Must attack the goading creature if possible.
Bastard. There we go, so he's dead, and then...
Hi, my hands are burning. Wanna touch them?
Nice.
Best be on my way.
You'd think the Justicars would have been. Alright. Cool, that's one down. No.
Oh no, he did.
No. Heal yourself and increase your hit point maximum. Nice.
Can she reach from there?
Oh no, she can't. And my guy
By my
is...
hand.
There we go. Incense sticks. Alrighty.
Keep going.
Ooh, least expected. While obscured in dart and shadow, the wielder has a 1d4 bonus to their ranged weapon attack, and it gives them a +2 weapon thingy. I'll give that to Shadowheart. I will pick up this and that.
Nothing really on these Justicars.
Yeah, just incense and such. Be mindful of any light sources. Also, the Skelly boy went down that way. So...
Do we want to follow him down that way?
I want to go down the...
clearly guarding something.
Maybe the right side first? Oh, wait, there's a
All right,
displacer beast down there.
Let's do a short rest before we even think of going down there.
Alright, I will do the short rest.
Initiate the short rest.
Took the edge off. Can't risk being in open view.
Let me get closer, let me get closer, let me get closer. I love how it says saving right behind it.
Stab it in the butt. Boop, 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 boop. Stab it in the butt.
Oh.
Wait, it ran off to something.
No, it detected Char, and I think it's trying to get... it detected Shadowheart, and it's trying to get to Shadowheart, I think. Or it ran off to do its own thing. Never mind.
Light on my feet.
Whatever comes, I'm ready.
Okay, so the Displacer Beast...
By the way, Shard is still up there.
Yeah, I know. I realize that. I was just doing stealthy shit.
A long way to go still.
So it's standing
try this
guard
way.
there.
Yep.
Question is why?
There's just a giant chasm there. Ooh. What do you mean target is too... Oh, there we go.
Oh, hang on. I can enhance sleep over there.
Yeah. Because this gets us...
Something's wrong. This feels like a trap.
Oh my goodness. That was probably a better call. Like... Oh my goodness. Jesus Christ. You gonna...
I'm following you around.
Alrighty then, because there was those guys there were ready to.
Before me.
They were ready to
we're
jump
gonna
us.
ambush us.
Yeah, they'd have the height advantage as
Oh,
well.
hang on. Oh, I've seen this guy. We can actually recruit him for the final battle.
How? They're ready to
You've gotta
jump
be
us.
nice to him.
Okay, noted. How do we be nice to him when they're gonna ambush us? I'm gonna take the wild guess that's...
Can't give up. Not now.
I stepped a little too far forward. Sorry.
Yeah, I figured. Maragon. So many fucking Maragons. Alright. Oh boy. It's a good thing
It's wizard time.
It's a good thing I
motherfucker.
autosaved just before the Displacer Beast thingy. You're gonna wizard time it?
No, because it's gonna have me move down there.
Another
and if
fight.
I move down there,
Let's go. These boots have seen everything.
Mm-hmm.
Screw it.
No.
What? No, fuck this. You're getting another fireball.
They're immune to fire. Also, for some reason, I still can't investigate them. What?
Well,
Metric, karmic dice, show tutorial. Why can't I view their edge panning cross save? LAN connection, eavesdrop, Twitch integration. Where in the world?
I
Why
can examine them.
Yeah, but in case slow running using more fear. North facing minimap. Show pings. Oh, that's why I wasn't seeing other people's pings. Exploration.
I wonder what would have happened if we actually walked in.
I
Also,
can
there are
reload
rats
and see.
there sitting on the throne. Yeah, reload and see what happens if you walk in.
All right, give me a second. I'm just double.
Because I mean,
checking.
with Shot and I up here, we can easily save your ass if it gets into a bad situation.
Yep. So... Yeah, it's annoying that I can't, like, examine them myself, because it's like, I just want to right-click and check things.
Alright. No, so it runs off on its own.
No, because I'm pretty sure it was Shadowheart that...
Have to keep going.
Alright, do you want to take Shot over with you, so you two are down below?
Oh, yeah.
What comes now? No time to dally.
I can be subtle sometimes.
Mm-hmm. God damn you, Tatsu. Yes, it is getting late. Long sword, broken shield, plaque. What does the plaque say?
Chambers of Penance.
Penance?
So much blood. What the hell
Oh,
has
there's a
been
little gilded
happening
chest
here?
over here.
Another step forward.
What did you do?
It just said kill. We've discovered signs of destruction throughout the temple. We can likely follow the trail of carnage to Raphael's old acquaintance. They told us of the nemesis who lurks in the depths below beneath the mausoleum. Evidently, we should try to deal with this old enemy. There we go. Now we get a
Thank you,
cutscene.
Ingral, for the 12-month tier 1 sub.
See about
Fresh
talking your way out of it.
Thank
But you're
you.
too fresh for this place, aren't you? There's a whiff of the surface to you. A new arrival, then. You burrow too deep.
Thank you for the year-long subscription, Ingral. I really appreciate it. Your words through with violence. Peace. Let us speak.
I don't talk to prey. There's something else, almost hidden by your fear stink. Cherries. Musk. And sulfur. Raphael! I can smell him all over you. Where is he?
You know Raphael?
That perfume trickster swindled me. Trapped me.
I've had dealings with that devil. Maybe we can help each
Where
other.
is he? Spit it out. Now!
Careful. I'm not sure we want Raphael as an enemy.
Oh, fuck Raphael.
Bargaining, are you? A Karator warlord once tried the same. I made him watch as I ate his concubines in young, then fashioned a codpiece from his skull. You can't help. It's not just walls that keep me here. Not the traps, the dark, or the creatures it hides. Something stronger holds me. A contract.
Is it a contract you can't speak of, like with Will?
Contract. Die trying, or forfeit my freedom. If I leave this place now, I'll become Raphael's slave.
Okay, what's the contract?
Spill all the blood sworn to the night. Silence all prayers. Smother each rite. Wander Shah's halls, hungry to slay. Leave no justice here, alive to obey. Leave none to hear it, then be set free. This song is your oath Swear it to me.
Okay.
Ah!
So,
Oh, killing all the justiciars.
or at least all the justiciars that are following orders.
Explains where all the Dark Justiciars went.
So,
That's it.
oh, and I failed the insight check.
So he's responsible for the carnage down here. All those Dark Justiciars. Slaughtered.
Raphael wants you to kill the Dark Justiciars.
Asking why doesn't get me paid. Hunting and killing does. Raphael mentioned something about an Asima. Meant nothing to me. I did my part. I filled these halls with ghosts. But Raphael's playing some other game. One that involves stiffing me. Anyway, enough prattle. The lyrics are clear. All who hear the song must die.
Nope.
Time to die.
Oh my god, I got a neg one on the charisma.
On Hurkin.
Okay, here we go.
Roll for that Durkin Hurkin.
Yes! Woo!
Oh, just.
Barely. I rolled the 16.
Roaming these halls. I spilled every drop of Dark Justicia blood that there was to spill. And you think you can do better? Go on then. I'll enjoy watching you fail. But try to run, and you will regret it. I may be trapped here, but I'm not without friends. If you break your word, they'll hunt you down and make your final moments a symphony of agony.
Plus, he kind of hot.
What?
I mean, the big dude, he kind of hot. Also, there's a traitor among them, hoarding. There's a traitor amongst this group.
Okay, so... Oh, god damn it. Alright, hang on.
What did you do?
I picked up an umbral thingy and it said it was like a stealing thing, which was annoying. I didn't think it was stealing in regards to them. I thought it was stealing for someone else.
Naughty, Grant. Naughty. Naughty, naughty. This is why I can't take you anyway. You can't keep your hands off shit.
I know what I'm doing.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
Time to die.
There we go. Succeeded on that one.
I may be trapped.
Alrighty. Save.
So don't steal anything in red.
Noted.
A bed made of corpses. Disgusting and uncomfortable.
So much blood. What the hell's has been happening here?
With haste.
You're supposed to be searching these ruins, little rabbit. Given up already? Give it a decade, or 10. Then you'll know it like the back of your hand. Though in truth, you won't have that long. Not even close. Suggestions. I suggest you think twice before pestering me, or our truce may end prematurely.
Considered them plenty. Besides, Lady Shah favors action over words. Try it out sometime.
Okay. Spider meat. So, yeah, the song was talking about, like, killing all justiciars until, like, basically until they, like, any that would take orders. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Fill Master's coffers. Tend to his beast. Feed it potions. Keep it charmed.
It seems this Merrigan is using potions. Chambers of Penance.
Wow, thank you, Gauntlet of Shar clues. We've defeated the Orthon. Oh, there was like one less, there was... Let's check out the,
Hang on. I'm coming down over to you.
Yep, sounds good. I'm just turning out some of the
By
lights.
the way, you've got animals. Hang on.
I've got speak with animals and invisibility. I'm not going to talk to the creature. It's not important right now.
I wouldn't mind checking.
Lady Shah. So many must have toiled to make a visage so grand.
Seeing what it has to say, anyway.
Beautiful.
Would you like a potion?
What business do you have in my master's den? I am my master's heart chosen.
You smell sour milk and rot on its breath. This creature has been eating charmed spider meat.
Alright, you go and try and piss it off then. I will continue figuring out this puzzle. So, Pedestal of Reckoning and an Ancient Altar.
Nope, failed horribly at that.
Ah, who would have thunk?
Ah, crap, I started a fight with everyone. Can we have 5? Oh, F8. Hey, look, at least I'm trying something, okay?
Trying something completely unrelated to the gauntlet. Because clearly, we gotta complete the gauntlet, because there's gonna be some other, like, Shar person there.
Are we sure we want to have Shadowheart if we're going to kill these guys in order to get this guy to be our friend?
If you listen to the song, it was just a case of killing everyone, all the Dark Justiciars that were in the place. Clearly, if there are no Justicars inside it, then his task is complete.
Yeah, but do we want Shadowheart, who is technically a worshipper of Shah, killing Justiciars?
We don't have to kill Justiciars if we just ask them to leave. And besides, this is all, like, gauntlet nonsense. She's probably fine with, like, needing to, like, you know, kill people if they're not willing to listen to her, so.
Alright, I'll follow you.
Yeah. Oh, also, you said this is the guy with the items?
Yeah, hoarding something or other. He didn't have anything of real value. Ran. What are you doing?
Aww.
It won't work with him?
It's not working with him. I think I might have done it wrong.
Barter. No, you've got it on the barter system. Ah, well.
It's fine.
Alright, where to now, biatch?
We head up to the other side of the thingamadiggy to check out the whatsamahoozies. Just remember to turn off things when you have the chance.
Right. There's a thing down here.
Yeah, but we need to give it an item, and I don't know what we can give it.
Didn't we get an umbral gem earlier on?
Nope, that was when I tried stealing something, and it like
no,
decided.
you should have one still in your inventory.
No.
Thought you picked up that gem from earlier on.
No, I touched something, and then it opened up things.
Okay.
Well, the good news is we found a waypoint here. Oh, hey, there's a rat.
Unworthy. Unworthy to walk among friendly bones. Leave!
I am going to sense his key.
His keys?
Rats have ki like all living things, but it is not usually this frenetic or powerful.
Huh.
Talking of you, intruder, invader, unworthy one. These halls are not for you.
Now, don't be mean to the mousy.
Don't cross any of the rats. Because they were like, remember the guy's notes where he's like, why is there so many fucking rats? This is probably why. And here's the marksman.
Head inside, now!
But at least say please.
Oh, there's more of these guys.
Hurry inside, or your racket is liable to.
Hi, Ginger Fox. Oop.
Rancid donkey scrotum! The quakes herald the shadows. It's already too late.
That is not good. Dark Justiciars, but there's
no one inside the armor.
Yeah, alright. So once again, we gotta get rid of the Umbral Terrors when we have the opportunity.
Merkel's fat lapdog.
They're immune to bleeding, by the by. There's an Umbral thingy-majiggy behind. Yep, that.
That's why I did a double take on my spells.
Fair enough.
The sooner we get rid of those, the better.
Yeah. How's it going, Ginger Fox? I'm doing alright. I'm doing D&D Night with Kode. We're figuring out how to do the Gauntlet of Shar. I think it has a lot to do with, like, shadows and stealth. And we're getting, like, a little thingamadiggy for it. Alrighty, alright, let's see what happens when
Oh, you finally got on to doing Mario RPG. Are you doing the new one or are you doing the older one?
Onward.
Alright, let's see. So, standing here, is there enough room? Yeah!
We were playing the original. Oh, playing the OG back on the back on the original SNES.
Oh my god, that's old. Old!
Hey, don't you be picking on Gingy?
Gingy?
Yeah, Ginger.
Gingy?
Another step
Yeah,
forward.
Ginger.
You got the SNES out and everything. Oh, that's neat.
What do I have to lose?
I would have done an emulation or something. Alright, so that's the pieces out of the way. Oh, almost got it. Alright, there we go. And then, so those are the two reconstructed thingy-majiggies. Alright, so we've got 2 more umbral tremors to deal with. Oh wait, 3,
Darn,
4
I can't
more.
get close enough.
Were you hoping to firebolt? Alright, hang on.
No,
Examine.
just firebolt it. Oh wait, I didn't notice the other one over there.
Immune to
Dang, I just
necrotic,
firebolt that
thunder, psychic, and poison. Resistance to the fire, the cold, and the acid. Vulnerable to the radiant.
Yeah, Ginger's been watching me play. The new one.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
you got one over there,
Alright.
one there.
Let's see.
And
So
one here.
Sunbeam is an action between long rests. Alright, what kind of cantrips does she have? Radiant damage. Alright, let's go with target is an inanimate entity. God damn it. Alright, fine. We'll use the arrows. Alright.
Oh god, the guy that got blinded by that light has just been made into a meme.
Oh, Ben, you mean, yeah, I've seen so many. Like, it's so hilarious that it's just like, boom. Oh, I got a deflected missile. Hang on. And send it back. Get fucked.
Back to sender.
Return to sender. Address unknown.
Address these nuts. Oh, there's another one.
There's 4 in total, I believe. Oh, one just spawned behind? What? Alright, so that's not out of the way. Also, why is there a dryad? What?
What do you mean?
There's a dryad right there.
Where's the dryad?
Right there.
Nah, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there's 2 more behind us as well.
Oh, they've been growing. What the hell? How have more of them popped up? All of these reconstituted thingamadiggies are just shooting at the wrong thing. Okay, which is it?
Well, that's why it's our job to take care of the thingos.
Yep. Nope, same moon. Is he gonna... Nope. They're just gonna go for the thingamadiggies. Hi there, Xerix. Xerix has just been commenting about the Game Awards, and I've just been completely forgetting to read. But yeah, you meant...
Oh yeah, we did. We were just talking about that.
Just an absolute giant flash, and you gotta give props to Ben for being like, guys, I've turned into a meme. Good for them.
Guys, I'm blind and can no longer see.
Alrighty.
What is the light?
Alrighty, I am going to Misty Step here. There we go.
No
Bear,
time for
bear,
mercy.
bear, 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 bear attack.
Have to keep going.
There we go. All right. God, some of these are strong and some of these are weak. And then the reconstituted things. Shillelagh.
Shillelagh. Widdly shillelagh.
Shillelagh. Alrighty.
Need to act fast.
There we go, and then... Damn it.
Post in the meme section on your... Okay, let me have a look. Whoop.
It's just on your Discord?
Yeah.
I've retweeted a number of the ones I've seen. Because, like, one of them, for example, was, it's, Ben Starr, like, at the bright light, and then the next image is, Louis Soir from Final Fantasy XIV during the cinematic.
Yeah, I saw that one.
So, yeah. But, oh my god, I needed, like, sorry, something just reminded me after I went through my thingamajiggy. Sean Murray was back in the whole, you know, hey, we're alive. We're making games, and then they're like, we're making a new one, and it's like, good on you, Sean. Great to hear you're doing something other than No Man's Sky. The studio deserves it. And then it's like, oh yeah, like we wanted to do like great big mountains, like hundreds of meters up, and I was just like, no, Sean, stop.
Before you say too much and oversell.
Don't oversell. Damn it, I can't Misty Step. Alright,
need to find a way forward.
This ways. Alright, bam. There we go. And then... Can I aim... Is there any others? Nope.
No.
Alright, looks like it's just the thingamadiggies then. Alrighty. Good to know, good to know, good to know.
Widdly wee shillelagh. Oh crap, the big guy. I did not notice him.
I think he just came out of nowhere, just to be real with you. He just fucking appeared. Overwhelming grief. Are you fucking serious? Oh! Alrighty, hang on. Examine. Alrighty. Time to sunbeam this shit. Oh, okay, I need to aim it like this.
Radiant power.
Nice! Immune to blinding, but now it has a radiant orb on them. So... Fuck yeah.
What was the point of that?
Who knows? Who understands the machination of the dead?
I'm honestly excited for this new game from the No Man's Sky developer because it's a fantasy title.
Yeah, I am too. There are elements that I'm like, oh, this just looks like mechanically No Man's Sky, but in a fantasy realm. Like, I don't know why. Like, seeing the dragon or creature, like, going off the ground into the air reminded me very strongly of like the ships getting up off the ground, and it's only the animation that changes or what have you. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful it isn't like, you know, a mechanical mess for them to make and such, and it is just a case of, oh, using the tools we've created in No Man's Sky, it's just a, you know, hugely, like, design endeavor. Alrighty. Oop.
You've made a grave mistake.
Alright, let's... Well, bam!
Crap, I should have applied heat to that.
Missed, and then...
But you can also play as furry characters.
Yes, I saw that as well.
So you can be a wolf or a badger.
Alright, hang on a second.
And then sit there going badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom.
Hang on, I need to find an... Oh, I don't have one. I'll need to find, like, an old clip when I used to have, like, the dinner plate nipples to present to someone. So... Alright,
Dinner plate titties.
Yes, also... Just waiting on... So I've ended my turn. Yep, Helson's doing their thing. Alright, what can the Dryad do? Slowing enemies down. Oh, nice. It was the same guy from How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or something. Oh yeah, that's Matthew McConaughey. Pretty sure I think he's trying to become the governor of Texas or something like that. Or I could be like reading into things too far. Ooh. Thankfully the Radiant Orb helps, you know. Alrighty. Yeah!
Okay, I was wondering what Unreformed did for a second.
No idea. We still got like all the Justicars around to deal with though. Jesus, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, okay. God damn, the spiritual weapon is shit.
Too much to bear.
Hope your soul is in good hands.
Can't give up.
I need to drink a healing potion.
Oh wait, I can do... Never mind. Actually, it's probably... Oh, that was a waste of a arrow, because she doesn't have multi-attack.
Oh no, never mind.
Bam! Whack. Hey, 7. Nice. At least it's hitting the spiritual weapon instead of Halcyon. Alright, one whack, he's down. There we go.
Who the
What the fuck? Okay, I'm gonna short rest here.
Time to get going.
In case something fucked up happens.
Hold up, hang on. Let me. Oh, you've robbed the Crusader. Well, fuck you.
No, there was nothing in the Crusader. Alright, quick save there, just in case. Oh, it's Balthazar! So, this guy's been making all the undead fuckeries.
Ah, the interloper. And in one piece as well. Not just any true soul would have succeeded in following my path through this place. You should be pleased.
Oh, great. He works for the Absolute.
I fought a battle right under your nose. Whoever you are, some help would have been useful.
Do you truly expect your betters to sully their hands to aid you at every turn, true soul? Such a poor grasp of hierarchy. But never mind. Your potential may outweigh your ignorance. I am Balthazar, Chief Advisor to General Thorm, and entrusted with a mission of utmost importance. Do you know what is at stake here?
Oh, yeah, I need to know more. Sure, you've read of the notable Balthazar before, but where? Hell yeah, the warped headband of intellect. Coming in clutch.
Intellecto.
Hell yeah.
Minus. Positive. Positive.
Alright, donk. Continue.
You remember an ancient scroll rescued from an Amcathran monastery? It spoke of Balthazar, the monastic order's leader. Specifically, it recorded his death.
I heard of a monk by that name once. He died a long time ago.
Oh, him. Yes, I decided to take his name for myself. After taking his rib bones. Suits me better, I think.
Oh,
but
that's
enough
disgusting.
idle chatter. Keep to the matter at hand. You do know what's at stake here, yes?
Enlighten me.
There is a relic here, one which General Thorm desires. No, needs. I will retrieve it for him, and you will help me. Ignorant you may be, you've shown some prowess in scouting and combat by making it this far.
Oh.
This necromancer has Kethric's trust. Helping him could be just what you need to gain access to the man himself.
I'd sooner kill him than...
Yep, same here.
What would I have to do?
I do not need you or your help. But you are here in spite of that, so I may as well make use of you.
Wow,
The
this
relic
guy's a
is
dick.
close, but the way is barred and Shah's dead are uncooperative. Clear the path for me by blade, cunning, or whatever it takes. I will remain here until you have succeeded. Or fallen.
I'd trust this gas bag about as far as I can throw him, which isn't far. But perhaps better to play along for now.
Yeah, okay. Might
as well get something out of him.
Yeah, might as well try. Shouldn't be too difficult. That is way too difficult.
I think not. You seem a capable type, and I'll need to keep myself well protected in this place.
Darn.
I won't push it.
Neither. That caterwauling beast is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned, Unless he hampers my goals. In that case, consider him a foe and act accordingly. Do not fail me. If you do, you'll join the ranks of my creations and be forced to try again.
Joy. Alrighty.
And I don't want to see any bite marks on it.
Another broken moon lantern, a silver chalice.
Master.
Ahead. Alright.
Oh, a bed.
Yeah, don't talk to him. Oh.
Can't pick it.
Halsin might have the knock scroll on him. Just give me a... Let me see what happens. That's not gonna... That's not gonna pass. Alright,
Want me to use the knock scroll?
I'll go one last try, and then you give it a try. Yeah, alright, hang on. You give it a try. Ooh.
Chesticles.
Alright, I'll go for the left.
I'll take the right.
Scroll of Vampiric Touch. Flight.
Ring, Callous Glow Ring. The wearer deals an additional 2 points of damage against creatures that are illuminated.
That would honestly be very useful in this area when, Shar is...
Give it to Shadowheart.
Inwards, what is...
Oh, Infernal Iron. There you go. There's your stuff for Mum.
Thank you.
I put it in your inventory.
Thank you. Alright, well that was a good use of the knock spell. Oh hey, there's another, Oh, it's just a trunk. Never mind. More incense.
Ah, I'm completely incensed. Thank you, thank you.
Alright, I should still be able to talk to animals.
We outnumber you. Leave me be.
Oh, dust.
Rats have ki like all living things, but it is not usually this frenetic. Or...
Yeah, I'm not interested in killing them.
I want to go down here, though.
Alright. Probably sneak it if you can. Unless... the rat doesn't give a shit.
Nothing of value comes easy. Overcome my
her most vaunted treasure.
I shall prove myself worthy,
What
Lady
did...
Shah.
Wait, what did she say? Nothing of value comes easy. Overcome my trials and win my... Okay, so we can't go through that door just yet.
There's a door down here that looks like it's open.
Wait, do the marker thing again? You mean that one
Right
there?
down the bottom.
Shah's armies of
If you look over the edge,
yep. Okay, I see what you're pointing at.
Those who do not listen to the reason of Lady Shah countless initiates walk these halls once, seeking to become dark justiciars.
You sound like a student.
I will
Reciting words
follow
for a
in their
test
path.
without considering their meaning.
I will succeed. I've considered them plenty. Besides, Lady Shah favors action over words. Try it out sometime.
Alright.
Hey, don't you talk to my man like that?
Alrighty, so...
A very gory idea of art.
Alright.
more rats.
Yes.
And they're crittering around that bit of broken bust.
Unworthy of dark cloak. Unworthy of dark fur.
There's something strange about the vermin in this place. Can't put my finger on what, though.
Rats have ki like all living things, but it is not usually this frenetic or powerful.
Just trying to use all the different
The
checks.
rat isn't merely territorial, it's proud. This place means a great deal to it.
This seems this. Oh, you want to do animal handling? Yeah, actually makes sense.
Might as well.
Passed it, so.
The rat holds its ground. It almost seems defiant.
We've always
Why
been
is it
here.
important?
It's ours. We watch over it. You do not belong.
Unwelcoming vermin aside, we need to explore this place.
Leave. Away. My nest. My dark.
Do not disrupt them.
Her most sacred path.
Okay. Then there's the invisible door you're
There's
talking
a lever right over here. But there's some rats blocking it. There's another one in there.
Alright, so I grabbed the
I'll
lever
wait out
handle.
here. The rat, I think, just attacked.
Yeah, it did. Hang on a second. So that brought me up here.
Back to where we were.
Basically so.
Alright, you might as well come back down to us.
Yeah, I'll do that. Alright, I'm heading back down to you. Oh, that's why there's levers on, like, one side and the other, is because this is meant to be our elevator to go from, like, one thingamadiggy to the next. Radio.
Makes sense.
Right T-O. So, what do we use with my... So, what do we do with a spare lever, then? Do we just, like, walk...
No idea. Did you pick it up, did you?
Oh, silenced. So you probably want to try and do all your magic before you cross over. Alright. And then... I'll stay up here.
Silence doesn't affect me taking the shape of a bear.
Yeah, because it's not magical, it's supernatural. I learned this the hard way in D&D 3.5 when we were going up against a thing that did like an anti-magical barrier. Hey, and now we're no longer silenced. Good work.
These boots are made for walking.
And that's what they're gonna do.
And that's just what they'll do. Cause one of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. And some of you might find that kinky.
Also, have you played Guild Wars 2?
I have a little bit. I had an account way back before they hit Steam.
Okay.
Which actually I had a lot of stuff in.
Yep.
And the account got banned.
Ow, why?
No idea, and I'll tell you, I was pissed.
This is the problem with multiplayer games when you put investment into.
It was to the point that I was almost like, I really don't want to probably start a new game now.
No, that's fair. Especially...
But I did like the story, though, so I might consider it.
Okay.
Why, you think you're playing it?
No.
You're done with all the...
Because Xerix was like, since Guild Wars 2 the name Balthazar is tainted for most people. That was their, thought.
Oh.
So...
No, that will never not be funny, and no, I will not stop saying.
Fiddly dee! Fiddly doo.
Fiddly dee! Fiddly da! Something, something, something ajar.
Alright. What the hell are you doing? Alright, cool.
Firebolts. I'm not gonna waste all my big spells on little guys like this.
Alright, that's him dead. Alrighty. Oh.
Yeah, because I have some really good armor going.
Damn it, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm so sorry. Just busting. Sorry. I'm gonna do an advertisement while it's going off, however. But you keep on going with the combat, okay? I trust you with the combat.
Trust me, he says.
I'll be able to hear everything still.
But does that mean we'll be able to hear everything you do?
No.
I just out of nowhere, the only thing we start hearing is just Grant struggling in the restroom. Oh. Alright, since it's Shadowheart's turn next, I'll wait a little bit. Give Grant some time to get back. While we wait, let's say horrible things about Grant.
Oh, no one has anything horrible to say.
Like, Grant is the... there's nothing he can do to stop me. He can't mute me from here. Mwahaha! Mwahaha! I'm sure Grant will be back in a second. Oh, that's nice. So we did a little, so for those of you wondering, at work, they've got an art house at work, and they just recently did a little thing where we grabbed stuff from in the bush, and we sort of etched it in paper. Mine didn't turn out that well, but looks like it ended up in the framed lot that's going to be in the art house, so pretty cool about that. I come back refreshed. Have you, though? have you really refresh? Yeah, I'm kind of happy that they went with it. I wasn't sure whether or not they would use my one, because I didn't like how it came out. Because I didn't get as much of the leaves in. I think the issue was because I grabbed the stems as well. I didn't separate the leaves. So I tried to do it all with the stems as well, which sort of didn't work how I wanted it to.
Alright. I'm back.
Go to hush, you stinky. I am not stinky.
Well, I have arrived just in time. Alrighty, hang on. Where's Char? There we go.
Look, I promise I wasn't saying anything mean. I'm ending my turn now, though. There you
Alright,
go.
cool. Excuse me.
We were all just saying how awesome and cool and brave and, you know, not big dumb himbo you are.
Go suck a
You know,
lemon.
all the nice stuff we would say about you.
Uh-huh.
I would never say anything mean about you.
Nice. Pushed them down and they got hit for like 12 damage.
Oh yeah, I did use thorns on you, so that's why you're wondering why there's thorns around there. I used thorns to try and damage all of them, but it got you as well without meaning to.
There we go.
Dang it, I was trying to hit him.
Icy is cute, Uwu.
Icy is cute. They'd hate it if you told him. You should tell him.
Dang it. All of my shots are ruined now. Thanks, Grant.
Not my problem. It's called planning.
You're a planning. Wow, 27 himbo. That thing is wrong.
Nah, I think it's accurate. Alright, deflect the missile. And return it. And it hits someone. Thanks.
I was gonna say, how could you miss that?
Who knows?
Oh no, because he's on fire, his regeneration's broken.
Ah. Cool.
You know what else is cool about it? All of that is flammable.
So if I throw this...
You gotta hit the vines.
Oh, okay.
On my way.
With haste.
Like this. Really? I thought they were flammable. Oh, hang on. It might be the other vines that are flammable. Yeah, it's those ones that are flammable.
Okay, you do realize I'm standing in it right now, right?
No, I had no idea.
You did, didn't you?
I would never light you on fire.
Oh, and he decides to just go outside of the thorny thingamadiggies anyway, so it's useless.
Got to move.
Hey, at least I tried, okay? I beat Kode, that's he main thing. That's the main. Oh, I beat Kode. That's the main thing.
Damn it! I can't.
Well,
hit it
yeah, you big poo.
Breathe deep and move. Trap. Be cautious.
Trap.
Yeah, see, those are flammable.
Did you decide to wait until I was outside of the thingamadiggy before you did the thingy?
Yes.
Okay. If you come over here, please. If you can come over to where I am.
Be wary. This place is trapped.
Okay.
I'm done. I can't wait to sleep.
Who the fuck?
Why would books be trapped?
I don't fucking know.
I'm gonna sit in this chair.
The Tome of the Self-Same Trial. Sharon initiated on how to please the Night Sister by succeeding the self-same trial. Initiates must ensure they defeat their mirror image. Any violence meted out to others will be penalized. Okay, so if we ever face our shadow selves, you must make sure it's to yourself. Make sense?
Do you wanna? Yep. Do you wanna disarm those buttons?
Give me a second. I don't think it's the... But, oh, hang on a sec. Maybe there's a way to... Oh, nice. Okay, hang on a second. Hang on a second.
What are you doing? Well, aren't you a smart motherfucker?
Yeah! Misty Step!
Aren't you glad I gave you that?
Yep.
Just avoid that trap.
Oh crap, it's a trap.
What can silence the night song?
This
Ooh.
place is trapped.
Teachings of Loss. Lady Shar knows what you bury deep inside your spirit. She knows what pains you and gnaws away at your very being. Be open with her about your failings. Let her place the soothing hands of oblivion upon your wounds. Let her know you utterly, so she can release you
What
from
can
your
silence the night
shackles.
Looks like we've got to insert something here. Wait, what was that book you were looking at before?
The Teachings of Loss Own
Need to keep
Secret.
going.
So it's talking about like secrets and shit. Ooh, Scroll of Fire. Yes, please. I'm reckoning, like... Oh my god, there's a raid. Hello, everyone! Hi there, Alcuris and Raiders. Welcome to the stream. My name is Grant. I'm a variety himbo streamer. Tonight is D&D Night, and joining me tonight is Kode Yoshi, as it's one of my, like, regular friends.
Yay, I'm a friend!
Friend!
On the regular.
Watch how you go.
But yeah, how was your stream, Alcuris? How was Harvest Moon?
Oh, you were playing Harvest Moon. Oh.
Yeah, that's what it says she was playing.
Now, what might you be
Damn, I
hiding?
haven't played Harvest Moon since... Okay, again, I'm showing my age here. The SNES.
Alright, hang on. Emptiness is a hollow state. One can be pursued and admired. To avoid oneself of all feeling, all attachment is to approach the purity of Lady Shar's embrace. We each must struggle in our own way to turn from the temptations of light and life. Remember that all those false comforts will betray you. Only the sacred nothingness will endure. Okay.
I found another book.
What does the book say?
I'll give it to you so you can have a read. There you go. As well as I found this.
Have a lot on my mind. And, well, in it.
So that's the Lever's Handle. That's the Infernals. Endless Dark. Moonlight. This is a darkness free from judgment, free from scrutiny, in which we are.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about Harvest Moon 64. You had very little time to get through anything during the day, and your stamina ran out way too quickly.
But let not ambition of the night be tempted to seize the sphere for themselves unbidden, for they shall find it an inert bauble stripped of its holy purpose. Let all of Lady Shar's children be honored to protect the sacred instrument. When the time comes, they shall know they aided the process of Lady Shar's destined warrior and help usher in return of the endless ecstasy of oblivion.
So guess who's coming to Fortnite as well, Grant?
The Ninja Turtles.
Oh, you already know.
Yeah, I already know.
There's also two other characters as well.
Peter Griffin?
Nope.
Shredder?
Nope.
Master Splinter?
Nope. Oh, I wish.
Wait, are they related to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or?
Nope.
Okay. Legoshi?
No. I'll tell you one thing. He consistently calls the two main characters filthy monkeys. And one of them eats people with his ass.
No, these don't ring bells.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Not a single cell in your body is telling you anything else?
Oh.
Are you sure you couldn't?
Cell and Frieza.
Yep.
That makes sense why the two of them were presented and with the backpacks and such.
As well as April O'Neil.
Well, April O'Neil's with,
But who cares about the banana raincoat wearing bitch, though?
A few people do. Alright, so, whoa. Is it in this room? I don't think so. And it wouldn't be the lever I found. Okay, hang on a second. I'm gonna F5 this.
Let's get on with it.
Does she have it? Hang on. Crescent moon earring. Oh, no, she did. Okay, hang on.
I'll go this way.
What can silence the night song?
Can I borrow something off of you?
What do you need to borrow?
Can I borrow the teachings of loss for a second? I was just remembering something in that.
Yeah, hang on a second. Teachings, Endless Dark?
No, the teachings of loss. It should be in your inventory.
There's multiple teachings of loss. There's teachings of loss with the Endless Darkness, the teachings of loss, which is Light's Love.
You need both of them. I want to have a look at them for a second.
Alright. What do you think of the chances that it's Saloon? So there's the gas pit. Oh.
Let's see what we
Teachings
have
of
here.
Loss. There's another one right here.
Charon's...
Have a look for any other Teachings of Loss books.
If the rumors are true, the answer lies within the pages of these books. It must do. A hidden way to become first among all Justicars. How can I not pursue such a prize? It does not matter if I was not commanded to walk this path. Lady Shar will surely admire my cunning and tenacity. I will scour every page, devour every word. I must find this relic. I must win a place at her... What did you do?
A Tomb of the Soft Step Trial. Ah, the Night Singer. Hang on. Night Singer, Night Mother. I think I know which one we need.
What would silence the night song? Which one of the books talks about it?
What can silence the night song?
What was the book?
Found it.
The Night Singer. Let me read it. What can silence the night song? Only the Night Singer herself, Shar, Mistress of the Night, Lady of Loss. Her name... Nice. Clever. I get it.
I was wondering why there were so many of those teachings of loss. I was like,
Dark Justicar plate. Hang on a second. I'm gonna read the plaque before I pick up the spear.
Shroud yourself in blackest night. Deliver the Night Mother's mercy upon her enemies.
Okay.
Well, have her pick up that spear. I'm guessing it should be for her anyway.
While obscure, the wearer has advantage on stealth checks. They have advantage on Constitution. Shar's Aegis. And it gives her a... Yeah, I'll give it to her. It seems appropriate for her to wear this.
This is no ordinary spear.
Oh, it's absolutely terrible compared to the blood of Lathanar. If Shar allows it, use this spear to kill Night Song.
Is that blood?
Crazy.
No, never mind.
Maybe keep the spear just in case we need it for a story mission.
Ooh, a Dark Justicar's helmet. +1 to saving throws against spells. While obscured, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack.
Might as well give it to shot.
Yep.
There is work to do.
So her current thing is whenever you deal damage with a weapon, you gain Arcaned Acuity for 2 turns, which is... Affected entity has a +1 bonus to its spell attack roll and spell difficulty for each remaining turn. So it's like a cheap thingy-majiggy. Alright,
So it'd be good for someone like me or...
Yep. Do you want me to... Hang on, let me...
Pass it over to me. What am I using? Yeah, I've just got Arcane Synergy.
Mm-hmm.
At least things have stayed interesting.
Alright, well the good news is we now have a really cool spear and armor.
Weapon attacks deal additional damage equal to the... Yeah, so let me have that other one.
So if you can somehow cast a spell more than once, your attack bonus would be like 2.
I can't wear it because it's light armor.
Oh, shame.
I'll send it to Cam.
Alrighty then.
I'll keep some of these books in case we need them for later.
Alright, so we had another door here.
Can we open them?
The Faith Leap Trial. Oh, okay, yeah, we can open them. It's just a different trial. Oh, interesting. There is a series of paths. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah, they're all hidden in the dark.
Yes.
Alright, do you want to take this one on your own and I'll wait back here?
The bowl contains an ancient rust-colored bloodstain. It forms a neat disc, as if spilled calmly and willingly.
This is one of Lady Shah's trials. Allow me, please.
Might as well.
Yep, makes sense for her. Jesus Christ, lady, you don't need to go with the wrist. You could probably have just gone for, like, the thumb or something.
Justiciars were said to be sure of foot in even the darkest recesses of Lady Shah's embrace. I must remember where to step, and have faith that she will guide me.
Alright, do we want to just let her walk the
Where
path?
to step, and have faith that she will guide me.
Oh, hang on. You're standing on the platform there, which shows the directions. Look below you.
Oh, I see it. So you're talking about... Hang on a second. That.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, hang on. Alright, so...
Let me share my screen over on Discord. That way you can see it from my angle.
So, 1, 2, going across, up, and left. Alright.
Yeah, you can see it from my angle.
On I go.
Alright, I'm gonna need to check your Discord then to see it properly, because otherwise I'm gonna F up. Where is it? Where is it?
I'm sharing the screen with you.
Yeah, okay. Ding, dong, watch. Alrighty, so...
If anything stutters, guys, it's just because he's having to watch it through mine while also having to play it through there.
Alright, hang on. F5 this. before I do anything wrong. Alright. So... Here. To go all the way here. Am I supposed to do anything to these statues? No, they're just here as a...
It doesn't look like it either.
Hang on a second. I need to move my guy out of... There we go.
You want me to zoom in a little bit?
Oh, I see where the issue... Okay, no, I've seen where I fucked up in the puzzle. Sorry. Hang on, I need to...
Yeah, let me zoom in just
Stop. And then move a little bit down in the camera.
How's that?
That's good. Alright.
I think you need to get to this N1 over here.
Just give me a sec. Yeah, and the...
Onward. Ever onward.
There we go. Alrighty. So, because the issue is like, I went to here... Alright. And then here.
So I'm not sure what getting each of those pedestals will do.
I think the pedestals are just there. Oh god. This is the thing that annoys me, is when it decides to do that nonsense there. Okay, so... Cool. And then... Hi there, Kiaru. No, it's not.
It's on a mode, no reload, no long rest, barbarian only.
Maybe if I had speed running strat so I could just break the game. Oh, Jesus Christ. I just held down the mouse and Char's just, Shadowheart just started moving with it and I was like, no, stop. Alrighty,
Joe Cat just posted a thing for the Monster Hunter Wild.
Yeah, of course, he's hyped. There we go. The Umbral Gem. You pick that up. And then there's a transpositional flux.
To not fail me.
Alrighty, so that's the first trial. Okay, so there's several trials we gotta do. So that's what all the doors are for. So yeah, we went through each one. We got like Char's like sword, spear, and armor, which is just a bonus. But all these others are trials. Each of them...
Little puzzles we've got to solve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Haslam back
mercy.
as human.
Self-same trial. Oh, okay. So this talked about like self-same nonsense. There was a book that explained that in this sort of trial, you're gonna face yourself, and but if you
only allowed to hurt yourself.
Yes.
Another bowl bearing the stains of an ancient blood offering.
So yeah. Come on.
Another of Lady Shah's trials that her initiates must face. This one would challenge their combat prowess.
Let's do it.
Sire, you paid me to say hello. I am taking over for the zebra. Hello, I am Robot. And today we are playing BG3 on mode no long rest, no items Fox until final destination.
The Dark Lady teaches us that we are our own worst enemy much of the time. Her embrace will elude us until we shed that which holds us back.
I would advise
You
not
also-
following me. Because if this is a combat, then... So yeah, because if this is combat with the self, then it'd be best I do it alone, so then that way it's a 1v1. God damn it, Kiaru. Oh! Dwarf, Halcyon, Shadowheart, and Dragonborn. Okay, so we do need the others.
Haha, told you.
I wasn't aware.
Alright, Shadowheart is up
Cookie for Bookie.
Halson's there.
Alright, time to skulk about.
You're over there, Durkins.
Best be on my way.
Are you stealthing, so then that way you have the opportunity to try and get as close as you can?
Nope.
God damn it, Kiaru. Alright, so Char's at the top. Halcyon is just beside him, and I am over where Shadowheart is. Alright, so... Oh god, this looks disgusting. Alright, hang on.
That looks nothing like me.
It's just a Dragonborn. Alright. Ow.
Also, that looks nothing like
Also, did these guys just decide to go another round without... Oh, because it was a surprise round was why. God damn it.
A little help, please.
Oh my god, how
you.
Alright, remember, only your, like...
Cool, hurt everybody else. Got it.
Nice. And then you're over here.
I wonder if these guys count for anything.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe revive her first.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. And that's all I can do.
Haha, Halson's dead.
Oh, they just Alright, Halcyon should probably only heal other people and shit like that from this point. Just in case. Oh.
What the hell? I went to heal.
Dragonborn cast Counterspell. Do you know Counterspell?
I don't think I know Counterspell.
Apparently a sorcerer can cast Counterspell. Why didn't you cast Counterspell all those other times?
Because I don't have Counterspell.
What do you mean you don't have Counterspell?
I don't have Counterspell.
He had Counterspell.
I don't have Counterspell.
This game sucks. What kind of wizard doesn't have Counterspell? Are you doing a Giga Brain plan? You could. Why don't you just fly or jump? Oh, that's unfair that they're.
No, he's an opposite of me.
I'm not going to last much longer. Got to press on.
Yeah, Halsin's invisible. Oh, sorry, yeah. Fuck's sake, he knocked me unconscious again.
I'm on the floor.
Yeah. Thank you for healing me. She's still trickery, by the by. Alright, let's see. What can I do? Alright, I can do a bonus action.
I'm close to my limit.
Alright. Oh yeah, they do have, like, the same gear as us. That's a problem. Des goes. Why would we need to respec Shadowheart? We don't use her that often anyway.
Fast. I must heal.
I'm not sure if using those the summons count as doing damage to.
Give me a sec.
Because the summons are Halsons.
I wouldn't risk it.
Take two.
God damn this fucking dwarf. Fuck you for stunning me.
Daddy, no!
The fucking audacity of this dwarf. I have an idea. Do you mind if we go back a step?
Yep, let's go back and step.
Alrighty, so, let me see, did we... Oh, it's a quick... Alright. Alright, we're gonna need to go back to, like, the Leap of Faith trials, but I have a bit of a shitty idea. Before we go into that trial of, like, the combat and such, just take everything off.
Oh, you're thinking, like, with the Mimic.
Like in Elden Ring, yeah.
Will that work, though?
I reckon it would if we do it before we open the door and do the cut and all that. Once they spawn, like, we'll have like, I'll go through first because I have, like, the least amount of... All right, hang on a second. Overview again so I can see what I'm looking at. All right.
Alright, I've got the map up still and the thing out, so...
Yep. Alrighty, so she needs to be down here. Across to here.
May have to pull it soon, too.
We'll figure this out. I got time. Do you have time?
Not tonight, no.
Darn. Okay.
Why don't we get past this? We'll go back to camp and we'll call it.
Alrighty then, fine. Alright.
That way we can have a long rest, be fully prepared, and ready to go.
Alrighty then, fine. Well, oh, we can't go to camp.
It hurts.
Maybe not in here, maybe if we go out. Okay, we can go to camp there.
Alright. Alrighty then, fine. Alright.
Well, it seemed like the most logical step.
Alrighty then. Save, save, save. I'll get the music going again, and we'll end the stream there. Oh, wrong button. There! There we go. There! And I saved the game, so I'll just exit out of it. So yeah, I reckon when we go through that trial one more time and we decide to go like the cheeky route of just take everything off, so it's like almost like because like the monk will be the most annoying even as a bare knuckle, but I think everyone else will be about less of a problem than us, unless they decide to mimic our
don't
like.
forget, my guy can still cast magic.
Oh yeah, sorcerer shit, but armor class and what have you, and weapons normally give a little boost to attacks and things, so. Otherwise, I reckon we've got it. Are you still good for next Friday?
Let me have a look. Let me have a look at my Gedge Measure Hedge of Vegetable.
Mm-hmm.
Shift. Yeah, so it should be good for next Friday.
All right, that's good, because I put it in the, like, because I've recently learned that Discord has a thing to be like, oh, here's the next, you can set events, and they're repetitious ones as well, so I've just made it that because it will give you, like, the local time zone for you, like, the time of events and such. I've started putting some of my, my Twitch stream schedules in there. So, like, for example, the Friday night D&D night, I've put into there, so then that way it's a little bit easier to know for some people who may not want to come onto here or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Alrighty. Well, Kode, thank you for joining in on D&D Night again. I'll give you a shout out just in case there's anyone here who doesn't know who you are, and they'll be able to.
Gosh, if you don't know who I am, what are you doing?
Sometimes I feel like you're the more popular one between the two of us.
Well, you're the one with 1,000K viewers. I'm only up to 700.
Yeah, but you've got like 700 like really dedicated fans. Anytime I go onto your streams, it is a very great experience. You have like a really great decorum with some of your viewers, and you seem to have a few more there that are interested in chatting. I reckon you have a really great environment, and anyone here who hasn't been following Kode, go follow Kode. You're gonna have a great time.
I try to be nice to everyone.
Yeah. Cookie for Sky. Alrighty then. We need to have
except for the few, like, you know, Kiryu, Onyx, you know, Furicus. Screw those guys, am I right? I love you guys. Please don't leave.
Alrighty then. Let's have a look at who there is to raid. Oh, we got so many options. We've got Cookie, once again for Ingrel. We got Kusaki doing some sort of modded Lethal Company. Kofu just recently reached partner, and it looks like they're doing a little more Dragon's Dogma. Geralt.
Zagwoff, also known as Dirt, doing some Lego Fortnite.
How do I spell that name?
Zagwoff. Hang on, I'll post it. Bloop, bloop.
Zagwoff?
Zagwoff.
Oh, Zangwoff.
Zangwoff.
There's an N there.
I'm not sure if they. Oh no, it looks like they're starting up a new map.
Let's see. Oh, why do they look familiar?
Because that would be Derpwolf.
Oh, did Derp change accounts or something? Oh, they have a...
No, so Zhang's got 2 accounts. He's got one for his partner streaming and one for just general shits and giggles streaming.
Oh, why do people do this? What did... All right. Let's go right into... Do you want to go right into Zangwoff then?
Yeah, let's go right into Zhang.
Alrighty then. Where is my thingamadiggies? There it is. All right. Raid channel.
It's the long playthroughs or games with a lot of grinding.
Right. Okay. So it's for. So yeah, because anytime a second account is being made, I always feel like it's a case of, oh, the streamer isn't confident in the performance of the stream because it's something that they feel like is like necessary for the game, but they're not too sure if it's something they can ignore needing to be shown, like on stream and such.
Okay.
So, all right. Do we have a raid message in mind?
Not really.
Hmm. We can always just go for the default himbo raid, I suppose.
Might as well.
Alrighty then. I will get the raid started, and for all of yous, we have our himbo raid message. Himbo raid, show us your cutest guys, gals, and non-binary pals are prepared to get swole. I will be seeing my dad tomorrow for his birthday. Hopefully I will be back home in time for MMO night. If not, I'll either have to delay or cancel it. But that's the next time you'll probably find me streaming. Kode, when's the next time people will find you streaming?
I was doing Sunday for some Mario RPG. I was considering Saturday because I'm working the day shift. I was also wanting to join in with you for MMO night, so I was like, I'll leave that one out.
Alrighty then, fair enough. Okay then. Well then, for everyone else, I want to say thank you everyone who came along to tonight's stream. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you'll join with me as we go raid into Zangwoff. Remember our raid message, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon, furry cures. Ding.